Good evening, Moms for Liberty-Sarasota. My name is Alexis Spiegelman. We have a board majority that refuses to connect the dots between the growing number of taxpayers coming to these meetings unhappy with your job performance and the mass exodus of those same parents out of the Sarasota County School District. We want accountability, but when you have an unelected establishment running our schools behind the scenes through all the various associations, foundations, and charities, and a school board chair who is the leader of the FSBA.
I know that last time, Dr. Vogel, and of course, I am very involved in FSBA and am the president-elect, and I want to just make that known publicly if there's anybody on this planet that doesn't know that, just so that we, right, Eric?
Yes, he works for you.
As Jane disclosed, I'd like to disclose also that I'm still involved with FSBA. I was the past president. I'm now president of the past president's council. So I just want everybody to know that I have been involved. But my decision will be based simply on what I see and who I think is best.
And is pushing the radical left-wing policy that is driving all of us to these very meetings, you do not have accountability because most parents have no idea what is taking place behind the scenes. Goodwin, who began working on this project over 10 years ago.
We had a superintendent who really didn't want to talk about this work or do this work. Move ahead several years, that superintendent has retired, and we had a new superintendent who came in. And that superintendent and I were close.
Sarasota County School District will welcome its new superintendent. The school board deciding to hire an internal candidate for the top job, Todd Bowden.
School board members had a lot to consider. 3 well-qualified candidates, but only one job. Some school board members worried Bowden didn't have enough experience in elementary education.
You look at my resume, I've never worked, taught, or been an administrator in an elementary school. So that criticism is absolutely fair.
He's extremely unhappy with the choice, saying the other candidates are more experienced. Also saying, I don't believe they ever had any intention of picking someone other than Bowden all along. They wasted everyone's time and turned their backs on Sarasota's teachers and students.
And the one thing that I wanted his tenure to start with was to speak to Dee Palazzo.
Dee Palazzo.
Good evening, Ms. Reyna. What a pleasure it is to be with you. So Equality Florida works on political things.
You rise up.
Concerned, or is it just certain?
And so I arranged that, and it happened.
The district is about to roll out a new set of guidelines that did not require school board approval or public input.
Issue that's filled the school board chambers in the past, gender diversity for LGBTQIA students. Ziegler says board members received an email on Friday from Superintendent Todd Bowden with a draft of new gender diverse student guidelines written by a task force that last met in August 2017. Because these are guidelines and not policy, the superintendent can act without board approval.
You do not need permission from your parent or anyone else to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersect, or asexual.
Just minutes ago, the board gave Superintendent Todd Bowden a rating of 2.7 out of 5.
Most are here to voice their opposition to Superintendent Todd Bowden's proposed new 4-year-long contract.
What about public input? Shouldn't the
No public
have
input.
A chance to give their 2 cents?
There's been too much public input. Since we chose this superintendent, there's been too much politics at the table.
Wow, those comments from the Sarasota School Board Chair.
I think it is my role to put a contract together. It's a contract between the school board and the superintendent. I believe he's doing an exceptional job.
It's why Chairwoman Jane Goodwin told board members that she felt she needed to draw up the contract for Superintendent Bowden on her own. She didn't even want public input.
You just said we've had too much public input, but these are tax dollars that pay for his salary. The public has a right to share what they think about this contract, don't they?
Well, they have shared it. They have shared
Not
many
this
things.
New contract.
Well,
I haven't seen this new contract.
What purpose does that do? What purpose does that do for us to have them share it?
It's their dollars. It's their money that's being spent.
And so we should listen to them. And then what?
Goodwin added the new contract to the board workshop, and she expects the board will vote on it. The contract guarantees the superintendent an annual $5,000 pay raise for the next 4 years, topping his salary at $222,000. That's not all. The contract also includes a new requirement calling for a supermajority vote to suspend or fire him. Goodwin said she drafted the contract on her own after 2 board members gave Bowden a negative evaluation last summer, claiming this.
Clearly, people are not happy about your job performance. Dr. Asplin, I find it interesting that the FSBA also, you were in the original pool of candidates when we hired Tom Bowden.
Not to consider 3 well-qualified candidates, but only 1 job.
Our first candidate, the first one on the rack, Dr. Asplin.
I am truly delighted to be here today and to see you all and to sit in this seat again. But I do appreciate you having me here and interviewing me today. I want to thank the board and I want to thank the selection committee.
Who was fired for sexual harassment. For all these people who are concerned about the money we're spending, $250,000 later.
You guys well to support us. You know, one thing that's really important to me, well, one, I want to echo emphatically what Mrs. Brown just said, because I think that was, however we go through that. I mean, if we can't learn from past experiences, then what is the purpose of education? So that definitely would be a highlight of mine. And I know in my experience, having worked with FSBA the last time, because to Mrs. Brown's point, we can't speak amongst each other, but certainly there was a lot of advisement, one-off conversations between, I'm sure, you and a number of board members, myself, and even including the executive director. So, but there is an element, and to clarify this, so and maybe we need to put more onus on the search firm.
The same FSBA candidate search team brought us our second runner-up.
I just wanted to state that the last time that we did the search, Scott Limpy was our COO, and he was very, very involved in collecting the applicant information. We had some things that we did relative to one of our administrators. Is that something that you would think we would do again this next time with someone, or is that something that you're prepared to help us with minimal effort from an executive?
My recommendation is that the last time the applications went to your HR department directly, my recommendation would be they'd come to FSBA.
Yes. Okay.
So I understand you said you customize things, and so I appreciate that. But in a generality, was the last search process we had, was that a normal process?
There were.
I mean, is that indicative of the type of?
That was a search process that the board helped us design. It was similar to other searches that we have done in the past, and there were differences in the search process too. For example, some school boards like the firm to bring them a list of semifinalists after we work together to define the qualities that the board wants. Some boards they tell the search firm to go ahead and bring us 8 to 12 or 15 candidates. And that works out fine if the board wants it. In this search, the board wanted a citizens advisory committee, which the board was involved in selecting, to go ahead and vet the candidates and then bring a list of candidates to the board. So that was one difference.
So one of the things that occurred, as you know, our superintendent ended up exiting over a harassment issue. But during that search, there was some harassment issues that we're still dealing with today. This was still illegal over those very harassment issues. But one of the things was that there were things about other harassment issues in the past with that superintendent that I would have thought that you would have found out because you had connections in all these other districts. So can you address that issue? Because those issues foretold the end of the story of what happened to that superintendent. If you read the beginning of the story, the end of the story wasn't a surprise.
Correct. The first thing we do, I'll run through the process and I'll address that directly. First thing we do is we do background checks.
So I'm not sure why anyone would be surprised with the results.